show of hands. Who's a dev? Okay. Who's working in marketing? Okay. Who's a VC or researcher? Okay, that would just be me. Cool. So thanks for coming to the panel. So let's start out with a brief introduction, and I think in order to spice it up a bit, apart from you from Linea, you are gonna say Linea. So I'm gonna ask, what's your favorite CK EVM or VM?
Linea.
And maybe a brief introduction, what you guys are building.
So hi everyone, I'm Alexandre and I'm working at Linea, in case that wasn't obvious. Linea is a type 2 ZK EVM rollup. It has been on mainnet for 1.5 years now. We launched last summer. And I'm working, as part of Linea, I'm working in the prover team, so we are doing development, research, optimization, and concretely we maintain everything that goes around the prover. And we implemented and designed and implemented a lattice-based proof system that is named Vortex, which we are optimizing over time, and we'll keep optimizing.
Is it open source?
Mm-hmm.
Is the code open source?
Yeah, it's open source.
I want to check it. I never checked it. I saw the paper.
Fede, you want to go ahead?
Yeah, sorry. I'm Fede. I'm the founder of Lambda, and also Align. I'm an engineer turned into BC on, I don't know, marketer or something, crypto troll, Twitter.
So what's your favorite CKVM or EVM?
Good question. I don't know. Actually, I think it's the only one I don't know in great detail, because at some point it wasn't open source. I'm pretty sure that last year
Yeah, we open sourced last summer.
Okay. I checked the papers. I think it's the only one I don't know in full detail. I'm a big fan of Cairo, the design of the VM. They invented Starcore invented the industry, and I'm also a big fan of Ali on Starcore team. I really like also Maiden, the design. More on the. I think all that said, I believe that RIX 5 VMs are gonna win. We'll see in the next few months who wins.
Perfect. Amrit, what are you building and what's your favorite CK VM?
Yeah, hi, my name is Amrit. We're building AltLayer, which started off as a RAS service. So I can't say which one is favorite because we have to do business with all of them. And so we don't want to lose our clients. So no, we don't have any favorites. We basically sell whatever people want. So we are in the RAS business. We help people launch rollups. So people come to us and say, hey, we don't understand how ZK rollups work, or we don't understand how optimistic rollups works, by the way. Can you help them spin one for us? So we do that. And then we make some money.
Perfect. Norbert.
Hi, everyone. Thanks for having me. I'm from Gevulot. I do protocol research and recently more involved in product. And basically at Gevulot, we are building a universal proving infra for ZK, supporting any proof system. Provers run in containers in a Linux VM. I don't have a favorite. We are actually proof system agnostic or like prover agnostic, absolutely. But we are happy to support anyone who needs ZKPs. Basically 3 core characteristics. We are building to be fast, super cheap, and decentralized to avoid a situation where that happened in traditional cloud compute, like to have a decentralized alternative for ZK compute.
Perfect. So before we go into the new trends of CK and the CK stack, what are the current blockers of the stack?
Half of them don't work.
What specifically is the key blocker?
You cannot launch them. Like the issue is that nobody tries shit in crypto. They don't go to the repo and run it. Half of the things are not working. I cannot say many of those because I work with many of them, but you cannot go and launch it. Actually, that's why I like ZK VMs. I don't work and I don't have any affiliation with any of those. I believe that they probably don't like me, but RIX 0 on SP1, you launch it and it works. Well, in general, because sometimes they have issues with Git, especially SP1 on how they use their GitHub, but they work. One of the big issues is you want to launch a prover for StarkNet. Until recently, it was not open source, and even if it's open source, you cannot fully run it. Now that's changing, gladly. ZK Sync, it's difficult to run the prover. We used to work with them on, it's very difficult. Polygon Maiden works, but it's not in production. So the biggest issue is that there's no solution that you can launch. I don't know, maybe you guys run provers, but for me, it's not so simple.
I mean, I can attest to that. I don't think, or most of the ZK rollups that you know and like and see, at least stacks don't work. What I mean by that is they are not ready in the sense that anyone can take the code in and then be able to spin them up. I'm not even talking about the prover, by the way. It's a different story. Prover is like, you could use, I don't know, their external proving service, whatnot. But the stacks are generally not ready in the sense that if you cannot take the code up and be able to spin up in the same way you'd be able to spin up an optimistic rollup or a ZK or an Orbit chain using Orbit stack. So yeah, they're not quite ready. And having said that, it's not that they won't be ready anytime soon, but they will be. But at the moment, if you take a snapshot today, I agree with that. It's not viable.
Can I add something? We are in an industry that wants freedom of capital movement. On then teams I believe that some of the teams on purpose make it difficult for somebody to launch something. You either have a license so that you can launch your own. I don't want to name names, but you know it. And you cannot launch your own chain. I think Optimism is doing well because of that. I'm not a big fan because. Well, I'm a big fan of Arbitrum, but I'm not a fan of their license. Or you need to understand something. You shouldn't be able to you should be able to go to GitHub, do make, and it should work. That's how it works in the real normal world of engineering.
To defend that, I mean, I'm sorry.
I'm an engineer. Business-wise, it might be.
To defend that, you could. I mean, OP Stack or the license is free in the sense that you could, if you wanted, launch a chain. The only thing is, you won't be able to get the benefits that will come from being in part of Superchain. This is where
Yeah, but sorry, I was saying that Optimism is the only one that I believe you can easily launch. I was talking about Arbitrum on the license, like they have a
you drop
license.
names again, yeah.
Yeah, but Optimism is the only one you can launch.
Even there are caveats, right? So in Orbit, you actually are allowed to spin up a chain as long as it's an L3. And anyway, there are the caveats around there. Just clarifying things.
No, going more from a technical perspective, where's the blocker? Is it the verification layer? Is it the hardware? Is it the prover? Maybe Norbert, you want to share your perspective from a prover marketplace perspective. Where's the blocker at the moment, apart from the license?
I mean, it's a very general take, but the cost of proof generation is one of the big blockers. I mean, probably you guys can say more about the verification side, but I think as soon as we can drastically reduce the cost of proving by at least an order of magnitude, which is realistic to come very soon, and then you could add software optimization, hardware optimization on top. I think that could be a big unlock for any new use case. And I agree, it's not easy to implement. I mean, at least for the provers, it's not easy to implement them. Usually takes weeks for us even to integrate with some of the big names, to run them on Gevulot. But it's possible.
Perfect. Alexandre, do you want to give a take on what we've heard so far on shading on CKVMs?
So, I can not give a take globally speaking, but I can talk about Linea. So all the code that we wrote for the stack, so for the prover, but also for the rest, has been essentially implemented to serve Linea as its first and only user. And now Linea has gone open source, and we've been in contact with people trying to spin up a Linea stack. So some of them wanted to just run the prover, some of them want to just run the complete stack. And it's complicated for two different reasons. So for the prover, you need a large machine today, so we are trying to lower this requirement. And on top of that, it is integrated with the rest of the stack in a particular way. And in order to replicate that, you would have to replicate the setup on which you run the prover. And as for the rest of the stack, there is a total of, I don't know how many services, I think there is 30 to 50, maybe some, no, she doesn't stand to correct me. So it's probably the right answer. So no, you cannot just git clone make and run the code. It will be more complicated anyway. It's just too complicated. Yet we still want to. We would still be happy to have users, people using our stack, and eventually it will become easy and easier. But for that, we have to do the integration work over and over until we know exactly, we can explain exactly what needs to be done to run the prover so that it becomes easy for everyone. The code never works until you have users, basically. Otherwise, it runs on my machine. I don't...
I mean, we do talk about problems and issues with existing stacks, but they're kind of like interim solutions as well. It's not that it's not there. Yes, you could say that, some stacks are not fully out there. But for example, there was a talk right before, I think 2 panels before this, about OP Succent, which allows you to actually spin up.
That's the only one that works right now.
So OP. No, by the way, so we have previously ourselves have played with Risk Zero as well.
Yeah.
So what I'm saying that the point is yes, there are problems and we are waiting for those things to be resolved. But in the interim, there are solutions that you could use if you wanted to, let's say, have some sort of an optimistic rollup. Some sort of variety-proof ZK rollup using a base stack that works. For example, OP stack. By the way, Orbit is way more complicated, right? It's not so straightforward to have Orbit with ZK fraud proofs.
I don't believe the cost in any way it's an issue. An L4, with only one prover or GPU, an L4, you pay 40 cents on any Vast or any GPU provider, and you can prove in 10 minutes a block of Ethereum. And that's going to lower to more or less 5 minutes in the next few weeks. With Circle Structs, that should go to 1 minute. So I don't believe cost in any way it's an issue. I think it's bad engineering practices and incentives. Most people, that's why I said before, there's something wrong, because in theory we're in a market or an industry that is in favor of free capital movement on open source. But in practice, nobody had incentives to do so. I think that in that sense, Optimism was pretty smart. They made it super easy in comparison to the rest. The problem is that they didn't have ZK. Now with RISC-V or RISC-0 or SP1, you will be able to prove it. I think at the end, it's shows people doing a mistake.
So from your perspective, it's probably the verification. That's the biggest block at the moment, right? Because you're building a verification layer with Align.
No, I helped build many of these stacks. With Lambda, we built many of these stacks. Align in particular is a verification network. I think the next issue will be the verification cost, but that's gonna be 1 year. I think RISC-0 is gonna probably do the same with Boundless. I think SP1 will do the same. Polygon is already doing it with the aggregation layer. Long term, there's no network effects from my point of view on the prover side of things. So that's why we did it. It's a business decision. But tech-wise, it's not in any way or form the limitation.
So Norbert has been smiling. Maybe you want to give your take with network effects on the prover side.
Well, maybe just one note. I mean, we've been working we see a lot of these chains built on top of different roll-up as a service providers or through some RAS providers, and I think my impression is that they are very much in need of an easy solution, kind of plug and play. They don't want to bother and pay high bills initially to centralized cloud providers. They may not even have the funds to do that, actually, to pay large invoices. And it's super easy for them to just use some external service provider that supports, I don't know, different stacks, different proof systems, etc. Yeah, I think we'll see. It's basically the industry is changing day by day. I think we'll see where we land. Definitely, I think we are going towards ZK VMs gaining more and more traction and being used more widely. Yeah.
I think ZK provers themselves do not give network effect per se, but I think what they do offer you is today, for example, if you use a remote hosted prover, you are basically dictated by the terms that they offer you, right? And so by opening up the prover network, basically it gives you, opens up the market in some way, and then you have market dynamics will come into play, where it will also drive innovation in the sense that you have people like Ingram and other guys are building hardware to drive ZK provers cost to as low as possible. And so by opening up the prover, it allows you to drive that innovation forward, and it also lowers the cost. And the third thing is it benefits you from liveness, right? So for example, let's say if you have just one single prover running there, run by Risk Zero team or Succent team, there's this issue that if that goes down, your rollup basically stops working in some sense. And so that liveness comes with ZK provers, which are decentralized.
So Amrit, when you look at the new trends in CK, is the hardware optimization the most interesting and the most exciting component? Is it new verification methodologies? Is it new proving schemes? What's the thing that excites you the most?
I think in the end, the goal of all these initiatives is to bring the price down, bring the cost down. That's the main thing, right? The hardwares are being built so that the proving can be optimized so that the cost could be lower. That's and again, similar for verification. In the end, everyone is trying to make sure that the cost that a user has to pay goes as low as possible. So I would say these all three, it's not like you pick one, but I think all these things are needed to be able to make sure that the price, the cost that a user has to bear is as little as possible.
Okay, perfect. Alexandre, what's exciting for you?
So in outside of what we're doing, I think what got the most attention from me was WER, which is a new proof system that is kind of similar to Fry. But they have a better verification time, so I found that really interesting, and I wanted to know how this works, and I find it really elegant. I love it. There is also lattice fold, which is a lattice-based polynomial commitment, and we are trying to see how it compared to what we are working, whether we could use it. We're still not quite sure how we could use it best, but also I love the ideas they had and what it brings to lattice-based cryptography. For now, so this kind of technique that use try to basically use lattice-based commitment as something that is homomorphic. We don't. We use them as a hash function only. But if we could have this homomorphism, we could make so much greater proof system. That would be amazing. The tech we have about using lattices, which is something I believe unique in this space, for L2 at least, is the fact that so the tech is prover is expensive because you have to run. I mean, it's not that expensive, but it's expensive still. And it is expensive because essentially what you do, the most expensive part is commit to your witness. This is always the case. No, it can be bigger or smaller, but it's always the majority of the prover time. And lattice are extremely fast for committing. It's on par with SHA-2 or even Blake 2, Blake 3 if you use the right parameters. And on top of that, they are very snark friendly, so it's very easy to verify a lattice hash. And we try to take this, to take advantage of this to build a fast proof system. And so that's how we got to Vortex, but would love to see like some homomorphism on top of that, because if we could do that, then we believe we could have smaller proofs. And so if we can have fast prover time and fast verification time and post-quantumness, then I believe that would be really a great contribution to the research.
Okay, makes sense. I think in the last talk we heard that the best product market fit for CK is CK rollups, right? One of the questions I had is, now that we see more progress on the verification hardware prover side, what are new use cases that are actually being enabled by the progress on the CK side? And I think, Fede, correct me if you're wrong, but if I'm wrong, but I think you're also working with Web 2 businesses on the CK side. So maybe talking about like new use cases, where will CK be in 2-3 years apart from product market fit with rollups?
So proving from my point of view is already cheap enough for any type of normal rollup. you pay like $1 approximately if you're proving an L1 client with RISC-V prover. You can prove with $1 10K transactions, like now. This was not possible 6 months ago. So that's already pretty cheap. Like if you can pay only $1 and get like 10,000 transactions, that's nothing. So I think every rollup will be a CK rollup the next year. 2, you will already have almost 12-second proving with big machines using Starks. So the question is like, what can you do next? Well, the things that are expensive that are not only transfers. Machine learning is going to take some time, but there's people that are already proving ChatGPT-2 in a few minutes. 2, you're going to have like anything related to IDs. Like we're already working with governments that want to move on chain on their own rollups. ID, passport, healthcare systems. So from my point of view, any type of governmental system will, because people don't trust, in many countries, like for example my country, you don't trust, the person in charge doesn't trust the middle managers because they fuck up. There's people, we learned about people deleting the passport of their wife because they didn't want them to leave the country without their permission, on bribing somebody in the centralized authority to change side, people changing voting, removing people from communities so that they cannot vote. So I think all those things will happen. That will take more time. It will take probably 3 to 10 years. But on the rollup thing, on the rollup side of things, it's too cheap. Like people don't realize it. The numbers I'm giving these numbers because people don't know them. Like with SP1 or with 0, you can pay like $1 and you prove everything. So next year with hardware acceleration, with Ingoniama, with irreducible, with BNews or other new proving systems, like it's gonna become even more cheap.
Amrit, go for it. New exciting use cases.
I do think that, like, about 6-8 months ago, people were trying to build games and where proof gets generated on the client side, so the gamer actually generates the proof. And so I think there's going to be, as proof becomes cheaper and cheaper, to a point where at some point you'd be able to generate proofs locally on on the client side. Basically, what I mean by the client side is browser or your phone or locally. I think that will also allow the reliance on third-party provers would, in a way, go away. And if that happens, then you could imagine building very P2P style use cases where I just want to prove to you, and no one else in the world needs to know that this transaction of some sort even happened. So I foresee that people would build applications, and in a way, like the passport example that we're discussing, in a way.
Actually, we need that there. Also for P2P cash. Like if you want to have like digital cash, real digital cash, you need to do it offline and only verify it.
Exactly. So I would say you'd see more P2P, not P2P in the sense the way it exists today, where like Bitcoin is P2P, but it's not real P2P. What I mean by this, so P2P in the sense that I would transact with you and that's it. I think you'd see more examples of that kind coming up.
Yeah, more like BitTorrent or Nutella. Yeah.
Correct.
Norbert, any input here?
Yeah, maybe just one thing. Like we've been chatting about this with Temo, and I think he also mentioned it in the ZK Endgame blog that we published some couple of months ago. Like we could even imagine in the Web2 world, let's say, any computation coming with a ZK proof, meaning even Amazon or Google moving towards trustlessness, in a sense that instead of trusting them with legal agreements, etc., they could actually just attach a ZK proof to any computation they do to you or to any user. But yeah, on the other side, maybe I'd mentioned content, like human-generated content being proven with ZK, because there is so much that we don't know whether it's AI or really human-generated stuff out there, and it's gonna get super verse, like much more verse. So I think I could imagine that happening as well, but I do agree with all the use cases you guys mentioned.
For example, a few years ago, I think it was 2 or 3 years ago, a guy hacked Microsoft Bing, the search engine, to change, when you Google for the top movies, it changed the movies that appeared. That's going to happen with ChatGPT. Like I use ChatGPT for everything. You ask a lot of information about ChatGPT. Why a government or a person won't have, like, you will have incentives to hack it and change information. So at some point, even the people running the LLMs will want the inference, not the proving probably, but the inference to be proven so that you know that you're getting the correct results.
Alexandre, exciting use cases.
Yes, so, I mean, to follow on Federico, there are, I mean, it's more just my take. Like, the world is seeing more and more IoT, and essentially we are putting computers on everything, on networks, and they are getting into things that are more and more important in our lives. So there is what's like downloading movies, but also there will be automated car in the future. So not that soon in France, but eventually everywhere. And then if the automated car communicate with a backend server, you want to be really sure what the data is back and forth, because, I mean, any wrong data and you might kill somebody. If you hack an automated car, like, it becomes really, really dangerous. And I think ZK and essentially soundness and its soundness could apply there.
Maybe we see some iteration between CK and Polymarket, and then the French government is not forbidding Polymarket. Maybe we see that.
You need ZK for privacy for that.
So a bit more of a spicy take. What's your one contrarian opinion on CK trends? What's overhyped? What's underhyped? What's one contrarian opinion?
It's full of bugs, like security bugs.
Shh, we don't talk about that.
We reported 2 big ones in the last few weeks, and the answer we got is like, this is not a security bug. I cannot, like, yeah, we have been submitting security bugs, and most people don't give a shit. And in one case, we had to hack the system in testnet to show it and create an inflation bug. It was Elio. I think even our code base is full of bugs, obviously. So you need not to take it defensively, like, because if not, we're fucked. Like, if we're gonna put so much trust in this system, we don't accept that it's full of bugs, and we need people to look into it and find them. I don't know, like, we're gonna have an FTX moment where people won't believe in ZK because the verifiers are buggy.
Yeah, I agree. Alexandre, you wanna go next?
Yep. So one take I have is about like the claim soundness of a proof system. Like, many projects claim to have 100 bits or 128 bits of security, but it's relying on many heuristics. And the thing is that when you come down to what is actually proven, you get something like 80 bits of security, 30 bits of security. So 30 bits of, I mean, what is proven versus what it is for real, there has to be a gap. There is always a gap when you come down to heuristic. But really, I think this is a bit careless, especially when the system have billions of dollars of TVL or money on them, meaning that if they have a real soundness issue on production, it's catastrophic. Yeah, that's
perfect. Amrit, what's your spicy contrarian take?
I don't think I have a spicy take. I would say that you have to, ZK rollups and ZK builders, they have to act fast. If you look back, ZK Sync and some of the other projects have been around for quite a while now. It's not a very recent project, and yet the ground that optimism or Arbitrum has covered. I mean, of course, you could always argue that it's very early. We're in the first year or nascency of blockchain, but things get measured in cycles in the space, and I think it's good if ZK projects actually push the pedal harder. And bring things to production as quickly as possible. Otherwise,
You're saying there's too many researchers?
Yeah, there are too many research. Honestly, I mean, if you look, people give OP a lot of shit, saying that, hey, you have no fraud proofs and you have nothing, things like that. But in the end, they were very practical in some sense. They understood what market wanted, and without going about the whole philosophy around, hey, this and that. Sadly, and they will bring all of those things. It's not that it's not coming; they're coming. But I think they were more practical in certain ways, which in a way I would say that it put other ZK projects in some sort of a disadvantage, because they were going for building a proper system, while optimistic rollup, at least initial designs, were essentially a side chain. Nothing was there. But whatever the strategy was, technically speaking, I think that helped them quite a lot in terms of getting grounds covered. So I would say zk rollups have to push the pedal harder and get to a point where they can actually go and compete with some of the the headway that I guess projects like Orbit and Optimism has.
Yeah, fair point. So Norbert, what's when you look at the CK stack, what's an overhyped component?
Well, I think it's again something marginally related, and not so much spicy. But I think there was a good talk today at another event regarding how much ZK rollups include. And I find it a bit interesting. We just throw in ZK for everything, but actually mostly we are talking about validity proving and proving that certain state transitions were valid. And there is freaking no ZK involved in terms of the privacy preserving stuff. Just maybe having some clarity there for the future might be just useful, but maybe unnecessary complication or complexity for majority. But yeah, it's just something to.
So more standards, more comparable metrics, right?
Maybe, yep, or just more clear communication of what properties a protocol has and what not, what it doesn't.
Yeah, thank goodness we have L2 pizza. Anyway, so last question, then we get questions from the audience. A bit of promotion to each of you. So what's next for your project, and how can the audience help? You wanna go first? Go ahead.
In what's next, first there is a beta V1 that will happen. After that, so just for the prover, we are going to focus on two things. The main thing is something that I would love to see done. So many projects have it already, but Linea does not have it yet, which is what we call unlimited proving. Today, you can prove an Ethereum block, but the Ethereum block should not have more than 8,000-ish Ketchak's block in it, because otherwise it becomes unprovable. So that means that in our sequencer, we have to write a rule that says if the counter goes above 8,000, we push the transaction back and we seal the block. So it works in practice. Most transactions work on Linea. I mean, I haven't heard too many users complaining that the transaction wasn't going through. So I think we got numbers that are wide enough to do everything. But still, it means that in our architecture, we need to count everything. And if the counting is bad, it's really a problem. We have to prove something that is not provable. I mean, we have some measure to prevent that, or to some countermeasure. And so with what we call the limitless prover, we'll be able to prove blocks of any size. Could be 1 billion gas, it does not matter. Also, it will reduce the prover cost and hence the transaction fees, because we'll be able to chop down the prover work in smaller units. So that's how that would work. After that, we will do something that I would love even more, which is a transition to smaller fields. Today, we use a 32-byte field, but we would like to use a 32-bit field. For us, it would mean huge prover cost reduction.
Perfect.
What was the question?
So the question is a reminder, what's next for the project and how can the audience help?
Well, in my case, Align is going to mainnet in the next few weeks. We were waiting after the election, so no engineering reason to wait, only market reason. There's going to be an incentivized mainnet. Me personally, I'm going to pass the torch to my co-founders. I'm going to start leaving the project in the next few weeks to focus on building things on top. One of them is Rogue, infra meme coin with no VC or any team allocation on top of it. I announced it on Twitter a few weeks ago. The other thing is working with big companies and governments that are going to use Align. So Align is going to be working. We are going to build on top. The rest of the team of Align is going to work on slow mode, like aggregation mode, because the mode we have right now is a fast verification with economic security. So that's it. It's going to be an interesting year of applications on top of it and the development of Align.
Awesome. We like the word meme coin, so keep on going here. Amrit, what's next for
AltLayer? So we recently announced that. Just for context, so Optimism has fraud proofs now. Base recently announced that they have fraud proofs. They have made it live, and so basically all the major optimistic rollups are on stage 1, and the next step for them would be to go to stage 2. And what stage 2 means is to have a multi-prover system. This is kind of the requirement that I guess set by Vitalik and I guess religiously followed by L2Beast. And so this is where we are involved right now. So for those who are building optimistic rollups, you can actually have ZK fault proofs, for example, through something like OP Succinct, and we are happy to support you. So if you are building an optimist rollup and want to go to stage 2, come and talk to us. We're happy to help.
Awesome. Norbert.
Yep. From our side, we are basically launching the next version of the network. It's a scalable, production-ready, universal prover network in the next couple of days, if all goes well. It supports any proof system. It's scalable horizontally with minimal overhead. And actually, if you want to get involved, you can already join as a prover node operator. We've started onboarding a bunch of prover nodes, and it's an incentivized network from that perspective. Still, even though it's the end-to-end implementation of the ZK cloud towards which we are building, this one is permissioned in a sense that we run all the validators of the underlying chain, but proving is already being decentralized. And let us know if you are interested to join as a prover node.
Awesome. Any questions? Oh, perfect.
So, like some systems actually, I think Linea uses mostly CPU-based approving systems, and others use, for example, SP1 can leverage GPUs. So, how do you handle those things? Do you have a very heterogeneous systems behind it that supports different kind of proof systems depending on what hardware you can use?
Yes. So basically, we have both CPU and GPU nodes in the network. Both are pretty powerful. So the minimum requirements for a CPU node are 96 cores, 800 gigs of RAM, or for a GPU node, at least two 4090s each node with, 400 gigs of memory and 60 cores on the CPU. So basically, we want to have this standard so that we can offer standard top quality in terms of proving. We support both CPU and GPU workloads. We can also do continuations like parallel proving or the segment proving and then the recursion on top of the segment proofs, these types of things. And we are in touch with a bunch of hardware acceleration companies also and looking to see how the cost performance will work out. But anyway, we are building towards supporting specialized hardware for ZK as well.
Awesome. Well, time is up. Thank you very much for the panel. Thank you for listening.